So,
Yeah, you guys are done. Just wrap
okay, just,
wrap it up.
that's the final question.
All right.
There we go.
So, as my partner said, Marceau is guilty of murder against the Arab man. Mainly, we're saying this because he had his hand on the revolver the entire time as he was walking over to the Arab man, or walking over more to the spring than to the Arab man. And he shot him the second the Arab man pulled out this knife, shot him from a distance, which meant that he didn't give the Arab man a chance to explain himself while he was standing up. But the fact that there was the interference earlier in the day with Raymond and Marceau is under the impression that the Arab man has no remorse and is going to come right for him. He even says that he walked up to him knowing that it would start a confrontation. And another main reason as to why Marceau would be guilty is because, like Jay said, Marceau had no family alive after his mother. He had no serious girlfriend, and even though she had very intense feelings for him, he didn't feel nearly the same way. And he could be seen as a careless person, and for that he took off and wasn't afraid to go and murder somebody and possibly unload an entire revolver on them and get the job over with.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, with the past history of aggression shown by the Arab, it's safe to say that he was a dangerous man. Dangerous enough to scare my client into carrying a gun with him everywhere and anywhere that he went. The prosecution is trying to paint Mr. Marceau as a heartless, vindictive man with nothing to lose. They want you to think that Marceau is a calculating killer that murdered the Arab in cold blood. That's not the case. The real Mr. Marceau is a quiet, timid man that's deathly afraid of the deceased. The Arab had cut Mr. Marceau's friends right in front of him because of vendetta. So when my client sees the Arab by the spring, it's understandable he would approach a little on edge. After seeing the Arab pull his knife, Mr. Marceau took aim at the Arab to keep him back. Unfortunately, a glint from the blade flashed into my client's eyes, scaring him. It was only after he felt like he was back into a corner did he shoot the Arab. He then emptied the revolver on the deceased because he didn't want the Arab to come back for revenge. So, as you can see, this wasn't a planned killing or even a murder. This was self-defense. And that's that.
Pause fire.
Okay, the first thing that I heard you say was that he was a timid man that's afraid of the deceased. Where did you get that from?
He was a quiet, reserved man. He didn't even say anything when his mother died at the funeral. He doesn't really like to show much emotion because he's so reserved and stern. And he was deathly afraid of the Arab because after the whole incident with Raymond being cut in the face by this man, he started carrying a gun around with him. Otherwise, why would he have a gun with him at the park? At the spring.
Well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily say that he's a timid man. I mean, the fact that he didn't say anything at his own mother's funeral and he never really had many connections, couldn't you say that someone who is possibly, I guess in a way, insane or careless, I mean, they don't bother to make any more connections if they lost everything. I mean, they may just say whatever and try and find a better life in prison, get out after that, start anew.
I mean, prison's not really a good life.
Well, I know it's not a good life,
I don't think
but
it will.
if you're living in prison and you've had nothing, I mean, it gives you, I'm not saying it's a good place, obviously not, but it'll put you in line.
Well, explain to me why Mr. Marceau would have a gun on him at the spring if he wasn't afraid of your client coming back for him at some point.
Just because he was simply, I mean, I don't want to say a cautious person because in the same way that could mean timid, but if there was ever, maybe the thought crossed his head, like, there's a chance that I could come across with this guy. If I have this gun on me and he tries to pull that knife, this gun will do a lot more than that knife will.
But, I mean, he just happened to stumble across the Arab. It's not like he had known that the Arab was going to be at the spring and then had intention to go there. He just happened to stumble across him,
Yeah.
and he was carrying a gun by chance because he was afraid of the Arab at any time of the day.
I mean, I understand he stumbled across the Arab man and that was a complete coincidence, but if you saw your friend get cut right in front of your face, I mean, would you not carry a weapon around?
That's exactly what Mr. Rousseau did. He was so afraid of the Arab that he started carrying a gun with him, and he just happened to be at the park. And when he stumbled across the Arab, he was afraid for his life. That's why he pulled the gun on the Arab.
But he had his hand on the gun the entire time. I mean,
He only drew the weapon after the Arab pulled the knife, and he was trying to ward him off.
I know he pulled it after, but I mean, if he may have just been saying if he instigates it, then there's his thing for self-defense. He still has a chance that he gets let go.
Alright, we have to wrap this one up.
So I'm summarizing. Right. So Rousseau has obviously shown that he does not have any strong connections with anybody really in his life. As Pat said, his girlfriend liked him a lot and wanted to get married, but he said no. And he lost all the members of his family, so he really had nothing to worry about. If he went to prison, that's all on his time. He's not putting anyone else in danger by doing that. So he went off to, or he did not go off with the intentions to murder the Arab. And Bill, as you were saying, you were correct when you said he took the gun with him because he was scared of the Arab, but here's the difference. When he saw the Arab, he walked towards him, gripping the pistol, ready for an altercation. So at that point, he could have walked away, but he did not. He walked into the altercation, saying in his head, I'm a fool for doing this. I could just walk away, but I'm very, very hot right now, and I really want the water from the spring. So he proceeded to the Arab, gripping the pistol the entire way. As soon as my client got up and pulled the knife out, yes, he pulled the knife out first, your client pulled a gun out, which showed he clearly had the advantage in the situation, fired a shot into the Arab man fell, took another pause, as you said yourself, unloaded the revolver on the Arab, and that shows that he had every intention to murder him. It was not premeditated, but either way, it was still murder, and he had every intention to murder him.
Okay. So far we've established that my client decided to go outside to get away. Shortly after going outside, he realized how hot it was and walks over to the springs. Marceau sees the Arab by chance, who was responsible for cutting Raymond's face, with apprehension. The day was so scorchingly hot that beads of sweat kept getting in Marceau's eyes, obstructing his vision. The Arab stands up and shows his knife as Marceau gets closer. In retaliation, Marceau pulls his gun and aims it at the Arab. The glare off the blade then reflected into Marceau's eyes and scared him. He shoots the Arab once in the chest. Scared that he might still be alive, he empties the revolver to be sure the Arab is dead and can't come back to harm him later. Clearly not a premeditated murder, but instead self-defense. The three main conclusions that should be drawn here are that 1. The killing was in self-defense, 2. The Arab initiated both incidents and therefore had a history of aggression, and 3. The killing was by chance and not premeditated murder.
Great crossfire.
Alright. If I can start, I'm going to go back to what you said before, where Marceau could have just walked away. This man was, as you said too, you agreed that he was deathly afraid of the Arab, which is why he started carrying a gun around in the first place. So he went outside, and after he makes eye contact with the Arab, you said he continued to make a beeline towards him, thinking in his head, why am I doing this? I'm a fool, I could just walk away. But I'm so thirsty and so hot that I need a drink from the spring. Which kind of goes to show you that Marceau is so hot and so thirsty that he's willing to go into a potentially dangerous situation for a drink. I think it's pretty understandable that he really needs this drink. So he goes up, putting a hand on the gun, just in case the situation happens to arise where the Arab puts him in that dangerous spot, he can be ready for it. Note that he didn't actually draw the weapon until the Arab instigated the entire thing. So I don't understand how Marceau was at fault, and this is planned, calculated murder.
Because Mirceau, if you remember from the story, the house that he came from with Raymond was quoted as a mansion. So clearly a mansion would have a cup of drinking water at the house. He did not have to go to a cold spring for that. So him leaving the house, going out of his way to go to the spring, because it did say he left from the mansion after Raymond got all stitched up and band-aid. So he left from there to go out of his way to go to the cold spring when he had water available for him. And as he walked over, as I said, he gripped the gun the entire way over. So he was showing, yes, you are correct. He knew I'm walking into a potentially dangerous situation and he's prepared. But you said that he pulled the gun out and that the Arab instigated everything. Yes, the Arab pulled a knife, and as I said earlier, I think anyone in that situation with a man beelining him that he knew earlier was involved in an altercation with him. Plus, Mirceau knew that he had a knife too. He knew that he didn't have another weapon, that he only had a knife on him because that's what he used earlier. He wants to kill Raymond, so he would have, if he had a gun on him, he would have taken a gun out and shot Raymond right there. He clearly did not have any other hidden weapon, and that he knew he had a knife, and he did not take one step towards Marceau when he pulled out the knife. So
Dog!
you can go from there.
What I think you were saying is that you're telling me the Arab was afraid of my client.
Correct. They were afraid of each other. Your dogs are.
Dude! Shut your mouth! Wow,
Shush!
That is,
Just pause it.
I don't think we would pause it.
What? Okay, Jay, you said that Mr. Marceau came over with the gun, and sort of by that, since he was gripping the gun in his pocket, that's sort of a way of initiating the incident, correct?
It's not a way of initiating it, it's showing my client that you have a potentially hidden weapon while walking over to him.
So it put your client on edge, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but still, didn't your client initiate both incidents technically? He started the fight with Raymond, and he pulled the knife out, which initiated Marceau to pull out the gun and shoot him.